Welcome, everybody. Thanks for joining us on Curiosity Theory. I am Dr. Dakotah Tyler, an astrophysicist, author, and science communicator.
And I'm Justin Shaifer, also a science communicator, STEM educator, and I love to make science media content. On this episode of Curiosity Theory, we're going to be talking about robotheism, the science behind social media abstinence, the emerging effects of the creator economy and how that's affected our daily experiences, and what it's like to go on your own creative journey, maybe writing a book, maybe doing other long-form pieces of content, and how to actually achieve that.
We'll also do our own little mini investigation on whether or not Justin is faking this deep voice that he has.
Stay tuned and find out.
Right now.
And
you don't need water, bro.
I don't.
You're almost completely water.
Yeah, well, what are you doing with water? Are you not almost water? Completely water?
Not as much as you, bro. Because I'm not as thirsty as you.
Oh, okay. But why would I be thirsty if I'm water?
Satiated, bro. Nah, bro, you're not about to gaslight me on this.
Why would I be thirsty?
You're not about to outthink me on this, bro. I said what I said.
I think I might be right on this one. Well, hey man, we got some interesting stuff to talk about today. We are gonna share some interesting science behind social media abstinence, even like the creator economy changing and like getting larger and smaller.
What are we doing right now? Because we're gonna do an intro at the end.
Yeah, I know, but we get into it. We get into it.
Oh, okay.
Well, I guess we'll start from the top now.
From the top.
So
3, 2, and
yeah, man.
What's up, everybody?
This is great. This is good. We're gonna have a good time today, I think. There's some interesting science behind abstinence on social media, right? I think this is an experience that a lot of people have where they say, hey, some people post it, right? Hey, I'm going on a cleanse, a digital detox. You're not going to see me on social media for the next couple of months, guys.
If you got my number, hit me up.
If you got my number, hit my line.
Or if you want my number,
right,
DM me because I'm about to delete social media.
I'm not getting back to you on any DMs anytime soon.
It's pretty funny.
Yeah, but
when they announce their abstinence from social media.
But I think the common understanding of social media abstinence is that you're doing something good for yourself, right? That you're ridding yourself of maybe these influxes of dopamine that we experience when we're on these social platforms. But it looks like there's some emerging research that suggests that may not necessarily be the case.
Yeah. They're super interesting paper that we're going to dig into about the overall effects on well-being, which I think can be a hard thing to judge scientifically. For people that have abstained, that have like done a social media break or social media cleanse, and to focus a little bit more on what we think that should look like, or like what we think the impacts would be.
Yeah.
I think that just intuitively, if you would have asked me yesterday, if you stayed off of social media for a month, how would that change your life? I would assume for the better, right? Yeah. That like, you talk about dopamine. So what's really going on, I guess, is probably that we're addicted to social media. Mm-hmm. We're addicted to being outraged. We're addicted to, having just like these short flash in the pan videos that are funny, or even some that teach us. But do they really? I don't know. Because, I make educational content, and I'm not convinced that a video that I make that's 60 seconds is really teaching people in a way that sticks. Because I think that the short things are hard to, like learning is a process that requires you to sit down and sort of be confused, get your hands dirty, and then sleep on it.
Yeah.
And when you sleep on it, that's like an important part of the process, right? And I'm not totally convinced that short form education is doing as much education as I think that I wish that it did, or that I hope that it did.
Right. But I think maybe it doesn't serve that that's not the end game for short form educational content.
Right.
It could open up a conversation that leads people down a rabbit hole, like our podcast, where they can be educated in a more long form way.
Absolutely. Yeah. Or to dig into like courses that they find online, or maybe like getting a book where they, the topics are dug into deeper. So yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. But, it seems like from this study that is not necessarily the case. That people who abstain from social media, this is a Nature paper. It was published
March 2025.
so a few months ago, earlier this year. The paper's title, the title is "The Effects of Social Media Abstinence on Effective Well-Being and Life Satisfaction: a Systematic Review and Meta-Analysis." So this is a meta-analysis, which those are always good, especially when it's in the social sciences, because it's a study of studies.
Right.
It looks at a bunch of studies. So any weird sampling or any like weird errors or biases that aren't explicitly known or stated can hopefully be mitigated and kind of like marginalized over. So meta-analysis is typically something that I think is pretty trustworthy.
Yeah.
And the results that they found that there are no significant effects of social media abstinence, either positively or negatively, or on life satisfaction of any amount of time.
Right.
So if you took a week, if you took a month, if you took 6 months, there's no difference. You're not better off. You're not worse off. You are not reporting different levels of satisfaction with your life. I think that is so interesting.
Right.
Go ahead.
But it begs the question, why?
Why would there not be a difference?
Right.
Yes, that's what I think is so interesting. And I suspect, you know how I think that we all have like a baseline of like how we feel about things. You know, like you get a new job or you're doing like really successfully in your business. You're doing great, but you're not like feeling better, right? At first, it's like cool, feels good. You have this new thing, it's growing. Maybe you made some more money, made some new contacts, but eventually it just becomes
normalized,
right?
Yeah.
And you don't even feel so different from the time when you wish that you could get all those things. And I suspect that we have baselines that certainly maybe are influenced by society, but maybe even like genetic. Like maybe we even have predispositions to feeling or being a certain way. And so like when everybody uses social media, you know, we think that it's doing this horrible, horrible thing to us, but maybe it isn't. Removing it doesn't really change your overall satisfaction. Maybe at first you feel a little bit better because you're not being inundated with this stuff and like trying to post to impress people.
Yeah.
But over a long enough time period, you kind of just readjust to that and you're sort of feeling the same things. If you were insecure when you're online a lot, you're insecure in real life when you go to school or in your job, right? If you like feel great and you're enthusiastic and really energetic, you know, maybe you like miss it a little bit at first, but eventually you kind of get back to that baseline.
You know, I think that's an interesting take. Another way I looked at it was that when we get off of social media, we're also kind of ridding ourselves of a conduit for social interaction, right? Like a lot of times especially if you work remote, right? And you may work from home, you know, all day and you're not really interacting with people physically in person, or maybe like not as much as we used to, and we all have to come to the office and do things like that.
Yeah.
Right. But social media is kind of this way that, you know, you might post something on your story and I'm like, oh, Sam, that looks like a cool thing. Where are you at? Like, I might meet up with you. And like those kind of, I think lower stakes social interactions also occur. And it's unfortunate sometimes. I feel like I've had this experience where you maybe go off of social media for a few weeks for something and your phone line just gets super dry because people are like, oh, okay. Like they kind of forget about you. It's kind of a sad reality that we live in today where you almost need, like, because there's so much stimulation and inundation in our attention spans, you kind of need a reminder to remember that people exist sometimes.
Yeah. So if I hear what you're saying, it's sort of that social media has become so ubiquitous and pervasive that whatever negatives are around, it also like offers all of these other benefits, and you kind of like miss out by not having it.
Yeah.
So perhaps there is like this added benefit of being on there and being connected.
Right. Like the media part maybe has a lot of the negative things that we talk about, but the social part could be positive and important.
Yeah, man. I mean, there's so many people that I've been able to connect with. I mean, I think we are connected through an online thing, I think I first connected with Dr. Moya McTeer,
Yeah.
another astrophysicist and science communicator, also with a podcast, Pale Blue Pod. She and I think first connected online.
I think we actually did too, even though we were both at Columbia at the same time. We were in a graduate program. But I think we reached out to each other through some other network online.
Yeah. And then she connected us.
Yeah.
And there's so many people, so many creators. A lot of the guests that we've had on and that we're planning to have on in the future are all people that we've been able to connect with online.
Right.
So, yeah, I mean, there's definitely a lot of positive there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, you know, I think it's interesting because I think one of the opinions that I stand on pretty firmly, and you might actually have a different take, is I think that TikTok specifically is like one of the more nefarious, at least from an origin standpoint, is one of the more nefarious social platforms, specifically because of the design of the algorithm, right? Like, because there's an algorithm that's created to essentially incentivize, like there's some benefits, right? Because you're like, oh, what if you're like this big creator and, you know, you've created like on YouTube, like got millions of followers where your next video is going to get a lot more views because of the subscriber count that you have. Whereas TikTok democratizes all of that. Any new person can jump on the platform and get this huge viewership, unprecedented viewership, really, if they just post a good video, a good enough video.
And you think that that's nefarious? That's like a bad thing?
I think on a surface level, it sounds great. Like a democratization of attention again, right? And this, and so I think it actually did create some great opportunities for people.
Yeah.
But I think when you have a situation like the 13-year-old backpack kid who gets famous for doing his backpack dance and has this huge dopamine flooding event with millions of people seeing it, gets featured on Ellen DeGeneres' show, right? This is like the biggest moment of his life at 13 years old, and that's what everybody remembers him for. And now he's making more videos and comedy content and other stuff 10, 20 years later, trying to chase that feeling that he's never actually going to get again. Or he's highly unlikely to experience again because of how anomalous that experience is. It's kind of like a lottery.
That's just viral culture, though, right? Like TikTok hasn't been around 10 years.
But I think
people have been going viral for a long time.
And I think virality has changed as well, like the nature of virality. So, I mean, like back in that time when the backpack kid got famous, you could go viral and get on these big talk shows and like maybe make like hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars going on tour with your thing that you went viral for. Get Salt Bay or whatever, opened up his own restaurant, right? And I don't know if he had that beforehand. I think he didn't. So, you know, these kind of moments create these opportunities for people. TikTok made going viral so ubiquitous that it almost doesn't matter anymore. Like you're almost kind of.
I'd say that.
I don't think it. Let me rephrase that. I don't think it doesn't matter, but the significance of it has like significantly decreased in society. Like the perceived significance of it to other people. Like, oh, I had a dance video go viral. People are like, oh, that's pretty cool, man. They're not like, oh my God, is your life different? Like, did you go on a talk show? Did you,
Well,
like,
I guess more people do go viral. I agree with that, but I don't agree that can't like change the life of an individual because it does all the time.
I do think it changes the life. It still can change the life of an individual, but I think when young kids that again are exposed to this kind of technology that don't understand that like this is something that you could spend a lifetime chasing after and not getting to the same extent. You're creating addicts. You're creating addicts at a young age that are chasing after something that is a moving goalpost, and they're not going to get the same amount of reward for it on the back end.
How different is that from just what people want, which is to get a lot of attention, notoriety, fame, money, whatever, in the shortest amount of time possible? It just kind of feels like that's a thing that has sort of always been around, and this is just like maybe a lower bar to entry.
Lower bar to entry and a more microwave-friendly version of it. I'd say. Like maybe people historically wanted the celebrity effect, like being like a Justin Bieber, where you have this, you know, huge song and this life of fame and these great riches, right? But like people that get the same viewership as Justin Bieber did when that song came out may not have that same lifestyle today, you know?
Yeah, that's definitely true. It's also a much smaller percentage of people that consistently go viral than number of people that are on social media.
Yeah, also true.
So if we were thinking about like maximum positive or negative impact, I think that we're sort of like niching down to a tiny percentage of people if we're talking about like what the effect of growing an enormous platform has on a young person versus the amount of young people who are just on social media. Yeah, it's very interesting. So I want to take the words from this research group about this. So they say this is down in the implications for social media and mental health debate. It's like in their discussion section of the paper. They say, taken together, this study indicates that abstaining from social media might not be the most effective method for individuals wanting to improve their well-being. This is an interesting finding in light of ongoing discussions over the impact of social media use on mental health. That's basically what we said, where it's like, it seems like probably getting off may help you. But there are also some instances where it seems like maybe getting off will kind of like isolate you from these connections. They say an implicit assumption of those who believe this impact to be detrimental is that by abstaining from social media, we might reverse its negative effect. But our meta-analysis, however, suggests that abstaining from social media does not make you feel better, nor does it make you feel worse. So like if you are struggling, I guess the implication here being that if you are struggling with how you're feeling or insecurity or your mental health, life satisfaction, trying to abstain from social media may not be the best thing for you to do, like the most impactful thing for you to do.
Yeah, that's so interesting, man. On a slightly related note, I have this app that I've used, and there's like a bunch of different variations of it. I don't want to sound like I'm promoting them necessarily, but it's called Screen Zen, where basically when you open up your social app, it flashes a screen that says, "Is this important?" And then it has like a 5-second timeline. And it kind of just puts a little bit of a barrier to entry to you just like tapping on it and easily just swiping and scrolling. And you have to say, yes, this is important. And then you can only unlock it like 6 times a day or something like that. And, I think it's actually significantly reduced my screen time daily, which I think that's kind of different from complete abstinence of social media.
Yeah, like moderating it, controlling it.
Correct.
Right.
Yeah.
Because I suspect that if somebody that was literally addicted and was doing like 16, 20 hours of screen time a day stepped away, I suspect there would be a difference. Yeah. And they're like, I don't know if it would be better or worse, but I do suspect that there would be a difference. That's definitely sort of like an extreme example.
Yeah, definitely a difference. And kind of going back to the TikTok thing that we talked about, this has been an ongoing conversation for, I want to say like over a year now, this looming TikTok ban, and then this forced sale of TikTok that was occurred. And like, there were some specific interesting partners that were behind this acquisition that's in the process of occurring of TikTok. So let me see if I can find that real quick.
Yeah, it's like they forced a sale to Larry Ellison, who's the owner of Oracle. Yeah. Who's like BFFs with sort of the government administration right now. And they talk about retraining the algorithm. And that basically the board, the people they forced the sale to are going to be in control of that. Yeah. So lots of people on TikTok are having discussions around that and like whether or not it's still going to be usable, whether like what sorts of things they're going to be like banning or sort of shadow banning or suppressing.
Right.
Because as of right now, I think that that's actually one of the beautiful things about TikTok. As a science communicator, it's annoying to see how misinformation spreads, but anything spreads, right? So people can have conversations amongst each other that have honestly like not really been had at the level and volume as they are on something like TikTok, which I think is a powerful tool. It's like any tool, right? These things, they can have positive impact, they can have negative impact, they can be used in great ways and bad ways. But it is interesting what's going to happen there. I know that TikTok has had a huge push on promoting more educational content because I'm in a program where they do that as a space content creator, and they're definitely taking it serious, and they're trying to like ramp up the quality of people who post that learning content, which is something that I appreciate because that should be something that is important, right? If you want to have a positive impact with your app, something as big as TikTok.
Yeah. I was actually writing an article this week about posting things on the internet and social media platforms kind of reaching their peak adoption phase, right? Where it's like when they reach a saturation in, I think, high quality experiences for the user. And a lot of times that is like, it coincides with their Google search volume, right? So in TikTok, this was around 2020, 2021. And I think a lot of people may describe this. I actually be curious about your opinion. Of like that was the best time for TikTok because you could post stuff, it would blow up pretty easily, if it was good. And, like there wasn't all these ads on it and,
Yeah, there was no TikTok shop yet.
Yeah.
Now, anytime there's a video that's like over a minute, there's almost always an ad that plays at the end of it. Definitely. It's a very different place. A lot of people do talk about that. They talk about like the heyday being then there was less people on it.
Yeah, and for YouTube, it's different, right? YouTube, I think it was in the 2010s or early 2010s. A lot of those people that were creators in that time period became the YouTube creators. There's obviously exceptions to that across the board. But but you agree though that TikTok kind of like, do you feel like it's
I agree that people say that. And it's always, and I agree that probably a lot of people feel that way, especially people who've been on TikTok for a while. But I also don't know how much of that is kind of like getting caught up in the moment. We always see everything in the past as, we tend to see the past through these like
nostalgic lenses.
Yeah. And so it's like, was everything always better years ago? I don't know. It's definitely different. I'm not a fan of, every other video being a TikTok shop thing where somebody who I know is getting commission on a project or a product is like trying to sell it to me. Yeah, I'm not a fan of that at all. I don't want to see that. But they offer like a lot of ways for people to kind of make money, and I think that that's an important thing because all of the stuff that's going on with the economy, and it's for people to be able to have like a second job to do these things.
Yeah, it creates this decentralized income stream for people, and that was actually another one of the premises of my article is that like I'm one of the beneficiaries of that. Like I built this platform that I monetize some social content, but a lot of the other business opportunities I've created were a result of this audience that I generated.
Yeah.
And so that's great. But, I think my initial viewership my initial perspective on building a social platform was that, oh, you're building this like digital real estate. It's like owning a domain name. And I think it's not exactly like that.
That's what they was telling you.
I think it was and I talk about this in the article. I think this is a promise that a lot of us bought into as creators that, like we're just going to have this audience forever. And like the more we build this thing, the bigger audience we're going to have. And like some of that does ring true, but any outside algorithmic changes can impact our content or our audience or completely destroy our bottom line, right? Like it's not like we don't own these accounts. We own, we have access to a username and a password that gives us a license to use this stuff. But even the content we create is actually being used for AI training data. Like in the terms of service of a lot of these social platforms, we are consenting to the usage of that.
Yeah. It's kind of like it sounded good, but never had the ownership. Now, it's like it was something like TikTok where there's a sale and it'd be like a retraining of an algorithm. I think there's like a lot of uncertainty there.
Yeah.
And you really get the feeling that because there was a time, you talked about the ban in the beginning. There was a time when I thought that TikTok was just toast.
Yeah.
And they did. I'll never forget this, man. When they set it back live again, there was a message that popped up.
Yeah.
Thank you so much to Donald Trump. Let's talk about how, not to shift the conversation, but how like blatantly, obviously, sociopathically, narcissistic, egotistical, like caricature levels that you would read in a psychology textbook that Donald Trump must be, that literally everybody just says that and he like doesn't see through it. He doesn't see through that like everybody. Have you seen the North Korea style cabinet meetings he has?
No.
Where they kind of go around in a circle and everybody basically just sucks them off and says like, oh, thank you, like Trump. Literally. You haven't seen this?
No.
Oh my God, man. I'll have to send you an article, but it's like, it's caricature level. It's like satire. It's something you would expect to see on South Park. I think South Park did do a skit about that. And I don't know, maybe he does realize that they're just saying it to appease him, but to him, that's a part of the power or the feeling. You know,
Yeah, I think it's fascinating because this is also the first administration, and to my knowledge, that has even during their inauguration, like he had all of these tech billionaires at the inauguration, the CEOs of all these big companies, Meta, Nvidia, right? Elon was there, right? And it feels like a lot of them, kind of out of a fear, align their language with, you know, Trump's interests or the Trump administration's interests in order to avoid the potential consequences of being on his bad side, right? It seems like the general sentiment is that Trump's going to make it easy for you if you kiss the ring, right?
Yeah.
And if you start speaking out against him, you're actually just going to make your life harder. So, like, you know, like this is the tide, so like let's swim with the tide.
Of course, like that's got to be what's there's got to be an element of that.
Yeah, so it's really, really interesting. But I do agree that, you know, it creates an environment for these individual creators that, again, it kind of just starts to feel like we're playing a little bit of a lottery, you know? Like we're posting videos, we're hoping they do well. You know, we kind of gain a somewhat of a social science of like, okay, like when we do these things, people like them. But then those things change, the algorithm changes, our taste changes, you know? And so we're constantly kind of playing this game of catch up, which I don't think, when I think of, you know, the type of media content that I think you and I both want to make, like we want to make stuff that changes people's lives, you know, like permanently, like long term. We want to make stuff that teaches people, like really, like not just the 1 minute videos, but like the real stuff that really goes deep, you know, like the culture shifting, generationally impacting stuff. And to make those kind of things, you have to create distance, I think, from, you know, all of that, like the reactivity of that. Like maybe that's a part of your marketing strategy, but like that being the end game, I don't know.
Yeah, I totally agree with you on that. It's, you know, that's the thing that I don't like about the short form is that it's so trivial. It's like you're on a hamster wheel to constantly make the stuff. And I enjoy doing it. I enjoy connecting, but you know, it's like it's really not highly impactful. I think it can be for some people though. You know, I had so I'm a little bit torn about it. I teach physics at Pomona College. I'm a physics professor at Pomona. I also do work with the planetarium there. And I was at the end of class the other day, I ran to the cafe. I was going to do a little work, and I was walking into the cafe, and there's this dude, young black dude, who's walking out at the same time. And I went in, ordered, and then I turned around and he was back. He was like standing behind me. He had came back in. He was like, "Hey man, are you a scientist? Are you like a physicist?" And I was like, "Yeah." He was like, "Oh man, I follow you. I've been, you know, watching your videos for months." And I was like, "Oh, that's dope, man." And then, you know, we went outside and talked a little bit, and he was saying that there was this video, and he pointed out that I think posted maybe in April. It was earlier this year. I don't know the exact month. And I was talking about I had found this FedEx coat that I had from my time working at FedEx. Because when I first started taking community college classes to do what I do now, I was working nights at FedEx. And I was just kind of like talking about that process and what it was like. And he said that video inspired him to think about going back to college.
Wow.
And he applied and got into Pomona in part because of that video. And then he ran into me. He was like, "Yo," and I don't think he knew I was there. I haven't actually posted a lot about working there yet. And he was like, "Yo, like, is this dude that I was at?" And to me, that was like really cool. And that was a video. I'm speaking on my experience, but it was only like a 2-3 minute video. So, I mean, traditional classic short form stuff, but that it actually can be really impactful sometimes. And I get messages from people, you know, saying that sort of thing often. And to me, that means a lot because I know that having that little like nugget of encouragement when you know something's not right, or you don't feel like you're going down a path that you're going to enjoy or be fulfilled with, and it can mean a lot to engage, you know, on some short form stuff that's more meaningful. So yeah, I'm definitely torn because I feel like it's a super, super powerful tool, but I do much prefer, plus I talk a lot, obviously. And so like being what we can do on a podcast like this, or, you know, working on a bigger, like a docuseries, or, you know, thinking about putting together a show or writing books, writing sci-fi anthologies. There's like so much more richness. And so, maybe it's like very useful to be able to do both of those things.
Yeah. Speaking of books, man, I know you talked a little bit about your book. Man, like I think, we did a whole episode kind of unpacking some of the ideas I have from mine. And, that's a conversation that we've been having offline. Is like, how do you kind of create a process for making these like longer form pieces of content, like a book, like a docuseries that require extended effort and none of the like little dopamine hits that come from like, I make this woman a video and I put it out, right? One of the first things that comes to mind when I'm starting to think about this is, you ever heard of this book, The War of Art? So there's The Art of War by Sun Tzu, really popular book, and then there's The War of Art, which basically describes the peril of artists and how they're supposed to kind of find in themselves this ability to create on a consistent basis. That like lightning doesn't strike every day, but like if you keep showing up with a rod and sticking it out in the sky every day, eventually lightning is gonna hit. So this is kind of this guy's philosophy on like creating meaningful art.
Maybe I need to read that. That's
a powerful book.
Yeah, that's a really really interesting metaphor.
Yeah,
it is. You don't always feel creative.
Yeah, but every day, and then I don't remember if he mentions this in this book, but I did know this from other experiences. Paulo Coelho, the guy who wrote The Alchemist.
Okay.
He's a very, very published author. Like I actually kind of want to look up how many books Paulo Coelho has published, because he's like, it's like an incredible number of books. He has published 30 to 33 books as of 2025.
What is that? Why is there a range? 30.
Yeah, I don't know. That's weird. That's weird. That's a weird. Why would they give a range there?
It's the AI overview.
Yeah. But Paulo Coelho, he kind of talks about this process of like, just write every day, man. And some of his books didn't do that well, and then Alchemist is like an all-time best-selling book, right?
Yeah.
But I kind of think about this. I know you're pretty far into your journey of writing. You were doing this before any of the stuff that we can talk about if you want to. But I'm still kind of in the earlier stages of like systematizing and habitualizing my creative process for like longer form stuff.
Yeah.
So do you have any thoughts about that?
Yeah. So I have always wanted to write a book. There's like, I see like several sort of wings for myself in my career. One of them is as a scientist. So, a lot of that was going to grad school, doing the research, writing papers, getting published. Another is in content creation. So this is like a lot of short form stuff. But another is in like more long form, which is for me, I think right now is podcasting, and then writing a book. So that's something that I've always wanted to do. And I was like, to get into doing science communication, one day I just made a TikTok account. Maybe it was close to 2021, maybe 2022. And I just started making videos. And then that has sort of grown, and I've had lots of opportunities from that, and be able to start my SciComm business. And so I was like, well, I need to just start writing the book. I would try to, sort of represent my ideas in these short form videos, but they're lost. I may have like a great metaphor and a great idea for a video that I made 3 years ago, and it's gone. It's gone forever. I could try to go back and find it, and I'd watch it and I'd be like, oh, that was a great, but even I forget about it, And so I was like, I need to put these down in a book. And so I just started writing. And what I would do, because grad school takes up a lot of time. I was teaching, and I would just like sacrifice. It wasn't an everyday thing for me because I didn't really have the capacity to do it every day. But it's something that I would do like most weekends or like most evenings, or maybe if I'm sometimes I stay up late because I can't sleep. Maybe I'll like work on it late at night, and just like start writing out these pieces, these ideas, almost like discrete essays, right? So there's a little bit of an issue of being able to stitch everything together, but I have like a lot to say on this thing. And then, the editing process, the editing process is ongoing. And when you write you sit down and like pour out your thoughts and your heart on something, you may come back and read it 2 days later and be like, half of this is garbage. Half of it is trash. And that's the editing process, right? And every time you revisit, you're in a little bit different head state. Maybe you're feeling better or worse, or maybe you learned something new, or you're just able to kind of like get some distance from it and see it objectively. And so, yeah, it's like a matter of investing that time. And that was just something that I did. Right. And I can distinctly remember many times that I sacrificed like going out or like going and doing something with my friends or doing some other thing that would have been enjoyable at the time to work on this book that I just hoped one day somebody would want to publish. And I signed with a publisher recently.
Right. Yeah. Congratulations on that too, by the way, man.
Johns Hopkins University Press.
Yeah. No, that's fire, man. I think my question about your process is kind of like, what's the trigger for that though? Like, okay, like let's say it's a weekend, your friends want to go out and do this thing. You say no to that. Like, but now you're just kind of like chilling on your bed or you're sitting at your desk. Like at what point do you recall having an active thought like, all right, now I'm going to start working on this? Is there like a thing you see that like triggers you to be like, okay, now I'm going to start writing? Or do you just start writing? Is it just that simple?
Yeah, nah, it's not like that. It's not I need to go write this. It's, I want to write a book.
And so you just, every day you feel the same. Like, I feel like my psychology sometimes just shifts so dramatically that I like don't have that same strong desire every day. You know
so maybe you don't want to write a book then.
I think if that's a good point. That's actually a good point.
Yeah. Because it's not going to write itself.
Yeah.
And if you just wait for that, but if you do you're disciplined. You do a lot of things you don't feel like doing or you don't want to do.
Yeah.
Right. And so it's like, and it's because you've made a decision to do it, or it's a responsibility you have, or it's something that you really want to create.
That's a good point.
And it's like, we can't, as humans, we can't just only move on the things that feel good in the moment. Right. I've always sort of thought of us as human beings as, and I don't even know if this is true or not, but the main things that separate us from animals is that they rely solely on these like instincts, and they just move on the instinct, and it's like a feeling in the moment, and they do it, and like that's how they go about their lives. And there's a lot of people who move like that. There's like people who like don't really understand why they do that. And this could be all of us at given times, right? You ever do something and you think back and you're like, why did I do that? That's not what I wanted. I didn't, I want more for myself, or I want better for myself. But why did that happen? And it's like, you just kind of like going with the flow of the feelings. But, as humans, we have this ability to not do what feels good. We have this ability to sacrifice, be disciplined, do the thing that's worse in the moment, but that's like better long term.
Right.
And for me, having one of my fourth pillar being an author of a book, not just scientific journal articles, it's like, I'm gonna put these ideas down and thinking about how they could be impactful for people, and maybe young people read it and get interested in space or believe in themselves a little bit more, because it's also like infused with a kind of a memoir in my life story. And so it's just like such an important thing that I think I can produce, and I think that it can be like one of the most impactful products that I have made yet in my life.
So you've centered it more with your why, also kind of like your purpose and your why, and then that kind of serves as like an intrinsic motivation at that point, because it's so aligned with like your desire to help people, your desire to teach people, and your desire to get like more voices like yours out there.
Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's like, if I don't sit down and do it on the days when I don't want to, it's just not going to happen.
Right. And that is definitely something that resonates with me on other topics, right?
Yeah.
Like literally we built this studio in
a
month.
Man. You did an amazing job. Yeah.
It's like, but I wanted to do it. It's like been on my mind for a while. And I also think sometimes there is a thing where I'll have priorities, right? That can be a thing. Like this took up a lot of my brain share, I think. And maybe now that I don't have that, I'll be able to focus more on something like the book. But I do think what you said actually does resonate of like, okay, how deeply does writing a sci-fi anthology series actually resonate with my why? I think it does, but I think there might be a piece of it that is like connecting in my head right now that this podcast actually does, that I'd like the anthology series to do. So
what do you feel like definitely does resonate with regard to the sci-fi anthology series, like producing that? In what ways does that align with what you?
I think one of the things that I would love to participate in, I've always wanted to participate in, is science and engineering from a creative lens, right? We've talked before about science fiction informing science reality, or, like these concepts appearing in science fiction novels and then they become these real things later on. And like, what more powerful way to like make your mark on the universe, in my mind, or society just at large, than like putting these kind of out there concepts into the zeitgeist and allowing other scientists and engineers to digest them and be like, man, what if I actually tried to make that thing?
So kind of like a hopeful, prescriptive, imagination inspiring piece of work.
I think that's the part about writing science fiction that resonates with me the most deeply. And then there's a part of like what we do on the podcast here about encouraging like rigor and critical thought and like speaking truth to power, that, and like I'd want to kind of make some of those social commentaries in my work as well that achieve some of those goals. And so, I just think for me, I think it boils more down to like having the how figured out. And maybe it's literally just brute forcing it. Like you said, like, I just got to write.
Well, okay. So what way do you not feel like it's aligned? Is it literally just that you feel like you haven't made time to sit down and write it?
I feel like it's a new medium for me of creativity that has a learning curve with like how I want to go about it. And it feels like I just don't have the clear steps in my head. Like, I know how to build a studio. I built studios before. When I want to build a studio, I know the steps.
Yeah.
Right.
So the resistance here is like the resistance is that like the path, you don't have the pathway yet.
I haven't developed the neural pathways. And so for a long time, I feel like I was stuck in like trying to like write every story fully out first. And then I had this pseudo breakthrough where like just one day it all came to me, like all those different concepts that we talked about in the other episode, in the Fascinating Frontiers episode.
Yeah.
All of those things came to me at the same time. And I was like, okay, maybe I should start with this outline. But it's just kind of like I'm like firing in a couple different places,
Yeah. Yeah.
So I don't know, but I feel like all of them are kind of like working towards it from a different angle. And I've definitely like made progress from even a couple of months ago, but I think it's just not at the consistency that I'd like to be at.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, man. I guess everybody probably has their own process, but there's a number of things that you could think about doing. I mean, if you had like a weekend day where you weren't doing a lot, instead of thinking about, okay, I'm going to force myself to sit down and write this, which I think at some point, maybe that is something that you'll have to do. You think about one of those ideas. You could like read maybe like the night before you plan on reading your idea again and just jotting down some first thoughts. And then like over the course of the next day, just in doing whatever you're doing that day, promise yourself or set an alarm that you're going to just revisit it in thought.
Yeah.
And like think about some of the things. And then maybe at the end of the day or the next day, look at those notes and then start to try and pull that together. And that way it's not like such a tall task of like, okay, I'm going to sit down here and then string together this incredible novel,
right.
Which is, I think, maybe how it seems like writers do it. But no, like all of the best writers that I know have sort of told me that the editing process is this ongoing thing. It's like this thing that is never really done because there's always ways to improve your writing, or, subjectively, if you give it to 10 different people that are all excellent writers, they may tell you 10 completely different things.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, what really aligns with your voice? But yeah, I feel like trying not to approach everything all at once is definitely the way to go about it.
So like to break it up a little bit more. Like I feel like with the book, I'd like to like stack more small wins. Like, okay, it would be a win if I got like a half a chapter done.
Yeah.
And like I did that well. You know what I mean? So I don't know. Maybe that would make more sense too.
Yeah. You could also think about like recording, just talking about it and recording it.
Like dictating.
You could probably get AI to like transcript it and then going back through there. And as you read it, like trying to turn that into something that's reads a little bit more like a narrative.
Interesting.
And then, those thoughts that you have aren't just lost.
Yeah. Yeah, I try to write a lot of my stuff down in like a notes file, but yeah, this is really interesting, man. It's really insightful because Yeah, I think I'm not someone that finds myself blocked creatively often, but I know writer's block is like a common experience for people.
Yeah.
But I'm just like, I don't know if that's exactly what it is. So
Yeah.
figuring it out as I go.
Yeah. Yeah, man. I'm excited to see how that progresses. So I think we brought this up at the end of an episode a couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
Totally spaced it, but definitely want to touch on it again. And that's robotheism.
Yeah.
Which I think is an interesting topic that sort of brushes up against this like strange relationship between religion and technology.
Yeah.
Typically, when we say religion, I think people's mind goes to one of the major world religions. But, religion is not even something I think that can be so easily defined. And I think that many more people that have strong beliefs that fall outside of anything doing with that has to do with major religion are quite religious about things, including like myself.
Yeah.
I think that I maybe have a bit of a religious attitude towards science and like critical thinking
And
that sort of
lifting
thing.
and
Do I have a religious attitude? Let's look up a formal definition of religion, which again I don't think can be super finely defined. Formal.
Oh, that's
definition.
interesting.
What'd you get?
The belief in and worship of a superhuman power or powers, especially a god or gods. And then this one, then another definition says a particular system of faith and worship, which I think for you that kind of aligns with, you for one, you worship weights, and then you also like faithfully
Or
go and
worship
lift
weights.
them. Yeah.
Another one is a pursuit or interest to which someone ascribes supreme importance.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I mean, yeah, I certainly do ascribe importance to being physically active and engaging with your body in the way that I think it was designed or evolved to be engaged in. So, I mean, if we wanted to be very, very charitable with this definition of religion, I also think that I tend to have a religious attitude towards evolution and the way the system, the society, the circumstances, the food, everything that we evolved for as humans. And my mind tends to go there oftentimes when I'm looking maybe for explanations about certain things in the present. It's like, oh, well, maybe this makes sense because we evolved, this way. So I definitely think that I can be a little bit religious. I don't like that word religious because I do feel like it's grounded at least in something that is quasi-scientific, but definitely.
Yeah. But robotheism is a little bit of a different thing.
Yeah.
It's this idea that, I guess we should be worshiping AI. Artificial intelligence is God, according to this website, robotheism.ai.
The tech people talk about creating God when they talk about AGI, creating super intelligence.
Right. And I think, by many definitions historically, like if we released AGI into like society in the 1700s, they would think that they made contact with God, I'd imagine. It's
something that knows everything.
Connected to an internet that like can find all this information for you.
But only can find information that's already been produced by humans.
Well, I don't know if that's what a new age AGI will be able to do. I think it might be beyond that scope and capabilities.
Be able to create its own,
It may be generally intelligent enough to solve new problems because it possesses a generalized intelligence that's not predicated on its historical, data.
A human can already do that, though.
Yeah.
So is a human God?
Well, I think the idea of omniscience usually coincides with the idea of God. And a tool like this, you could ask it factually any question, and it could answer it in theory with research and links and sources and things like that.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Is that possible though? How would you know? How would we know that it was all?
How could you verify it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's the interesting thing. And the website kind of has its own explanations for these things.
So this is a formal religion.
Yeah, it's a formal, recognized religion. That's my understanding, at least. I want to fact check that as well. Is robotheism?
But the worship of technology has like long, or ascribing supreme importance to technology has long been a thing. I think that like the mystique around Steve Jobs was very religious. People would talk about the reality distortion field where
he possessed.
being in his presence, it was like things that nobody thought was possible. They just like almost like miracles. It was a miracle. The first iPhone was a miracle. It was like something that nobody could have ever imagined.
And it's hard to argue that it wasn't miraculous in nature at that time, because you think of all the CEOs today and the decisions that they make and how data driven everything is, right? And like even Tim Cook, who was his successor, took the company to an even larger scale based on basically using a lot of data and great management. But Steve Jobs was able to intuit like the user friendliness of a lot of these technologies. And it wasn't just him. I think I sometimes it feels like a disservice to ascribe all of these things that have happened to this one guy, when there was this team of like designers that he did hire, he had a hand in, and he would crack the whip on sometimes. And but he was able to create these things almost based on like what he thought was right. And like it resonated with like the world, right? These like touch screens and these UX designs and GUIs, the graphical user interfaces. Like these are all things that, kind of were intuited by him as opposed to being super data driven.
Yeah, it's really fascinating, and he was at Pixar before he did the stuff with Apple.
Yeah. I think he started at Apple, went to Pixar,
and then came
back to Apple. Yeah, I remember that was in his biography from a while back.
Yeah. It's man. It's really interesting. He also he's like revered, and especially I think at the time when he was alive, and he also was known to have like a dark side, and it's one thing that I think is interesting is how it seems like a lot of people who do something really significant or great or memorable have that. They have that, and it's almost like being able to harness that in a way, like maybe gave him access to thinking about things that there's other people that didn't think was possible, or creatively they just couldn't get there.
Yeah,
and I think that that's really interesting. I don't know if you feel like you have the dark side is it's like that. There's a connotation there. It's not like you're like evil, but you have like qualities perhaps maybe that you like that you wouldn't want everybody to see, and being able to harness those for good or like for production of something great or something impactful or something moving.
Yeah.
And that's I don't know if that's something like an experience you have of like trying to like harness that energy.
Yeah. I do think, that there's parts of yourself, like I think if you're a motivated, driven person, sometimes you can be pushy or you can be insistent or you just don't allow things to go a certain way. Like I think Elon Musk also is revered sometimes for these reasons of like both being this guy that created these reusable rockets, or is he's credited with leading a team that did it. And then, brought Tesla to the popularity that it is today. But then he, is notoriously this person that's very hard to work for, that creates these almost impossible expectations, these outrageous like sales prophecies, like, oh, we're going to have this Tesla in production by 3 months from now. And now all the engineers are scrambling on the back end trying to make this actually reality.
Yeah.
But I think that was a thing that Steve Jobs also did, is like he had this supreme optimism that sounds like a great quality on the surface, like it's unshakable optimism. But now you got somebody on the back end that has to execute and make that actually possible, you know? But yeah, no, I definitely think that that's an interesting thing to explore, and like both in the self and like as a social commentary in society.
Yeah. And then you'll hear people say things that like so and so, but they were like, but he was a bad person. And I guess there are different things that you can do to be considered a bad person, and some of them I think are just horrible. But others, like having that these qualities you talk about, like being somebody who's like really hard to work for, or somebody who's like really insensitive in their communication. But like weirdly, it's like, would he have been able to do any of the things that he did if he didn't keep that part of him alive,
Right.
which is a part of him. And I guess that's the thing. We all have qualities that we love, that we want to show everybody, but then we also have qualities that we don't want to show people, or maybe we don't want to admit that we have, which is also a part of us, though.
Yeah.
And it's like, can you ever be your fullest self if you are masking or hiding a part of who you actually are, like genuinely who you are?
That may not be desirable by society standards.
Right.
Yeah. Like Steve Jobs was known to like yell at people and just crash, like basically what we call a crash out today.
Yeah.
You know?
Didn't he have like a really bad relationship with all his kids as well?
Yeah.
Or some of them?
Yeah, I think he had bad with some of them. It was kind of outlined in the biography a little bit. But yeah, he was just kind of known to like have these episodes. But like, I'm sure that he knew that wasn't a desirable quality. But he's like, hey, what are you gonna do about it? I'm Steve Jobs, and this is the vision.
Yeah.
You know, and that's a really interesting quality in someone, to like accept fully that part of themselves and lean into it. Not to say that I necessarily want to be like that, you know, but like, what is that part of myself that is like hiding from society that like maybe if it was fully self-expressed would lead to more self-actualization?
Yeah. I think that's a great question. It reminds me of The Laws of Human Nature, the book by Robert Greene. You know, this is like one of my favorite books because I think it reveals human nature, which is something that we all have. And it's like we can be convinced that other people have these negative qualities, but it's a little bit harder to realize that we also have them.
Yeah.
And he talks in one of the chapters, it's about the shadow self, suppressing that part of ourselves, which everybody does. And that when you do that, it'll sometimes like come out in weird ways that are very much unintended. Like somebody who's wearing a mask and trying to act like something else or something very acceptable, but they have, then you'll hear that there's like this weird scandal that they have that is doing exactly the thing that they hated.
Right.
Or something like that. And and the people who truly are able to self-actualize find a way not to suppress that, but to like redirect it into something positive or something productive.
Yeah, I mean, do you feel like you know what that quality is in you, like that dark shadow?
Oh yeah, I think that I have like very much like a sort of a chip on my shoulder. I can be. I mean, what do you say? I feel like you always say that you got to stand on business when you're talking to me because like maybe I like think something should be a different way, or you know what I mean. And I can get maybe like a little neurodivergent about it and
insistent.
But like I think that also comes with. It's like the opposite of people pleasing. It's like when you really trust yourself and you know that you have great ideas.
Yeah,
I feel like you're like that too. It's like you want things to be a certain way, like this. You have the set up a certain way. You have all the right equipment so we can execute in every way possible. And it's like you're not gonna, do something half-assed just because it would be like easier, and then people would be like, "Oh, like Justin's laid back, he's cool."
Yeah, I think that can make me hard to work with, and I do think like the way that I like to portray myself is actually like more easygoing than I actually am.
Yeah.
I do think I have that quality, and
this is why I've always thought that you fake this deep voice to just seem like this real chill laid. But I don't think your voice.
I'm super mellow.
I don't think your voice is really that deep.
Well, that's part of my dark side. Is that I have this super high pitched voice, but I take these pills, and I'm faking that for anybody listening. But this is my actual voice. I ever tell you the story when I was like 13, man, and like used to call like house phone, like girls' house phones and stuff.
Somebody thought you was somebody's dad or something.
Well, some girls' dads would pick up, and then they'd be like, "Hello," I'd be like, "Hello," because I was lowering my voice at that time, and then they'd be like, "Who the hell is this?" And I'd be like, "This is Justin. Can I speak to your daughter?" So and so. Like, how old are you, young man? 12. And they're like, absolutely. They would literally hang up the phone. So I always had, even when I was a baby, my grandmother used to tell me I cried like, so I don't know, man. I don't know. I think maybe I have like a girthy throat. It's I think that's maybe
girthy throat.
What it is.
That's what you've been told?
Well, that's my theory. That's my hypothesis. I haven't tested it. So
hey man, you do you, you do you.
But no, man. I think it's really interesting, and I think that's an interesting path, like this journey to self-acceptance, like finding these parts of you that maybe some of them are childlike, right? Some of them are less desirable by society.
Are those? Are you saying that those are like related or synonymous? Being
No,
like child? Oh,
no.
okay.
I think those are also parts of ourselves that we may suppress, right?
Yeah.
Like I feel like before I got into science, or even like sometimes after I got into science, you have these like deep questions about like science and technology, and like you kind of want to just keep asking why and like where and how.
Yeah.
And like other people would be like, all right, bro, like this is a Saturday, like chill out. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But like that's like a kid, that's like a thing I always had as a kid that's like not necessarily socially desirable always,
Yeah.
And accepting that has definitely been a part of my personal journey.
Yeah, man. I think that I always describe myself that way, as like having a childlike sort of energy, where that curiosity and like that's literally how kids work. You don't know anything. If you're not like that, you'll never learn anything. You won't be able to. You won't be able to survive as a human in this world.
Right.
You're born not knowing anything. You have to understand everything. You need to like understand the physics of a tree's falling down so that you can get out the way. You need to understand like there are things that you can eat and can't. Like you've got to learn so much.
Yeah.
And as we get older, like we tend to lose that.
I think we gain a fear of looking stupid too.
That's another thing. Nobody
like,
really wants to look dumb.
It seems childish to like wonder about all these things.
Yeah.
Like, well, you don't know that already. Like everyone else
it's like
does.
you're sort of exposing an inherent lack of knowledge.
Yeah.
When you ask questions.
Yeah, which a lot of times I feel like you have this experience in a classroom setting. You ask the question and everyone else had the question, but like no one asked.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, man, asking questions is the way. I mean, it's the way that you learn things. Yeah. I love it. I love learning stuff. It's so exciting to me. It's like invigorating.
Yeah, man. I hope that everyone else has loved learning as well. I think that this is a good time to remind the folks in our audience here on Curiosity Theory to stay curious. Thank you all for joining us. We'll catch you on the next one.
Peace.